In a temple in the old city of Kyoto, there is a garden that people travel across the world to sit beside. And just behind it, where almost no one thinks to look, there is a small stone basin set into the ground. It holds a little water for visitors to rinse their hands. Around its rim, 4 characters are carved into the stone, and they are arranged around the square opening in the center, in such a way that the opening itself becomes part of each character. When you read them together, in the way the old monks intended, they say something very simple and very strange. They say, "I know only that I have enough." A man named Daiki once stood beside that basin for a long time. He was my grandfather, and he was a poor man for most of his life, in the way the world measures these things. He worked with his hands, he earned a small and steady wage, and he never in his life owned very much at all. And yet, I have never met a person, before or since, who carried himself like a wealthier man. When I was young and hungry for money, I could not understand it. I thought he simply did not know what he was missing. It took me many years to understand that he knew something the rest of us had forgotten. He told me, on the train home from that temple, that almost every person he had ever known spent their whole life trying to fill a cup that had a hole in the bottom of it. They earned more, and the cup leaked faster. They poured in a bigger salary, and the hole grew bigger to match it. And so they ran, all their lives, pouring and pouring, always certain that the cup would finally be full once the next race came, once the next promotion arrived, once they earned just a little bit more. He looked at me and he said, "Hiroto, the secret was never how much water you can pour. The secret was always the size of the hole." Today I want to tell you about the size of the hole. I want to tell you about an old and beautiful Japanese way of becoming truly rich, even on a small and ordinary salary. And it has very little to do with the things you have been told. Stay with me to the end, yes my friend, because what my grandfather taught me beside that stone basin changed the entire way I understand money, and I believe it can do the same for you. First, the stone basin. Taru or Shiru. Let us begin with those 4 characters carved around the basin, because the whole of this philosophy grows from them like a tree grows from a single seed. The phrase is, "Ver tada taru o Shiru." It means, I know only sufficiency. Or more simply, I know what is enough. Sit with that idea for a moment, because it runs against almost everything the modern world whispers to you 1,000 times a day. Every advertisement you have ever seen exists to teach you the opposite lesson. Each one is built to make you feel, for just a moment, that you do not have enough, that you are not enough, and that the missing piece can be bought. This is the water being poured into the cup. And the hole at the bottom, the thing that drains it all away, is the inability to ever look at your life and say the words, "This is enough." Here is what my grandfather understood. A person who earns a fortune but never knows what is enough will always be poor, because there will always be a richer man to stand beside, a bigger house to envy, a finer thing just out of reach. And a person who earns very little but truly knows what is enough is, in the only way that matters, already wealthy. The old monks did not carve those words into stone as a pretty decoration. They carved them as a financial instruction, perhaps the most important one ever written. Wealth is the gap between what you have and what you crave, and you can close that gap from either side. The whole world is screaming at you to close it by getting more. The stone basin whispers that you can also close it by wanting well. This is the foundation. Everything else I'm about to tell you is simply the practical art of living from that one idea, the daily craft of a person who has decided to know what is enough. Second, seeing the money, the Kakeibo. There was a woman in Japan named Hani Motoko, born in the 1870s, who became the first female journalist this country ever had. She grew up watching ordinary families struggle with money, and she came to believe something that sounds almost too simple to be true. She believed that most people are poor merely because they cannot see their own money clearly. It moves through their hands like water through open fingers, and at the end of the month they look up, the money is gone, and they cannot say where it went. So in the year 1904, she gave the Japanese people a tool, a household ledger. She called the Kakeibo, which means simply the book of household accounts. It was not a complicated thing. It was a small book in which you wrote down, by hand, every yen that came in and every yen that went out. But Motoko understood that the act of writing it by hand was the entire point. When you must physically write down the price of the thing you are about to buy, you are forced for one honest second to look at it, to ask yourself whether you truly need it, to feel the weight of the money leaving you. My grandfather kept a Kakeibo every day of his adult life. Each evening, he sat at his low table with a cup of tea and a pencil, and he wrote down what he had spent that day in his careful, small handwriting. As a boy, I found this unbearably boring. I asked him why a man with so little money needed to count it so carefully. He smiled and said, "Hiroto, it is the man with little money who can least afford to be blind to it. The rich man can survive his own foolishness. We cannot." This is the second piece of the art, and it costs you nothing but a few minutes each day. Before you can ever know what is enough, you must first be able to see what you have and where it goes. You cannot steer a boat in fog. The Kakeibo lifts the fog. It turns money from a mysterious tide that comes and goes on its own into something you can finally see. And the moment you can see a thing clearly, you can begin to master it. Third, the things you do not buy. Mottainai. There is a word in Japan that mothers say to children, that grandmothers say to grandchildren, that has been passed down for centuries. Mottainai. It is said with a small wince of regret whenever something good is wasted. A grain of rice left in the bowl. A piece of paper used only on one side. A perfectly good thing thrown away because a newer one appeared. Mottainai means, what a waste, what a shame. This thing still had worth and we have squandered it. Underneath this little word lies a whole way of seeing the world. It is the understanding that the objects in your life carried effort and life and meaning into your hands, and that to waste them carelessly is a kind of small disrespect. The person who lives by Mottainai repairs the torn thing instead of replacing it. They use the object until it has given all it can give. They feel the wrongness of waste in their body, the way you feel a sour note in a song. Now hear how this becomes wealth. The modern world makes its money from the opposite of Mottainai. It needs you to throw away the working phone for the slightly newer one, to grow bored of clothes that are not yet worn out, to replace what is merely old with what is merely new. Every act of waste is a leak in your cup, and the person who carries Mottainai in their heart has sealed 1,000 of those leaks without ever once feeling deprived, because they were never chasing the new thing in the first place. They look at what they already own and they see that it is still good, still useful, still enough. My grandfather owned a single good winter coat for perhaps 30 years. He had it mended when it tore, and the mending became part of its character, and he wore it with more dignity than any rich man wears a new one. He used to say that a man who respects his belongings rarely needs new ones, and a man who needs new ones constantly has learned to respect nothing, including, in the end, himself. Fourth, the slow river, Chokin and Tsumitate. Now, knowing what is enough and wasting nothing will seal the holes in your cup. But to become truly rich, even on a small wage, you must also let the water rise, slowly and patiently, year after year. And the Japanese have always understood this through one of the oldest virtues in the culture, the virtue of patience. There is a practice the Japanese call Chokin, which simply means saving, the steady setting aside of a little money again and again. And in recent times, the government built a whole system around an idea called Tsumitate, which means to pile up by accumulation, putting a small fixed amount into investments at regular intervals, month after month, without trying to be clever, without trying to guess the perfect moment. You simply keep adding. The way a glacier is built, one snowfall at a time, the way a great old tree adds one ring each year without hurry and without doubt. This is where the small salary stops being a curse and becomes almost a kind of gift. A person who earns little, but who saves steadily and lets that saving grow over many years, will, through the slow magic of time and patience, often end up wealthier than a person who earned a great deal and spent it all chasing the feeling of being rich. The river does not become deep through one great flood. It becomes deep by flowing in the same direction every single day for a very long time. My grandfather had a phrase for this, an old saying that goes, Chirimot sumoreba yama to naru. It means even specks of dust, when they pile up, become a mountain. He set aside a small amount from his small wage every month for his entire working life. Never very much, never enough to feel any single month, and by the end of it he had built something solid and real. A mountain made entirely of dust. He told me that most people fail at this for one reason only. They despise the smallness of the amount. They think, what good is this tiny sum? It will never matter. And so they spend it. But the person who respects the dust is the person who one day owns the mountain. Fifth, the space to breathe. Yutori. I want to give you one more word because it names the true prize at the end of all this. The thing we are really working toward. The word is Yutori. It means a sense of spaciousness, of room to breathe, of margin and ease. It is the opposite of being squeezed and rushed and trapped. When you ask most people why they want more money, they will say things about expensive objects. But if you keep asking gently, you find that underneath it all, they want something simpler. They want Yutori. They want to not lie awake at night doing arithmetic. They want the freedom to say no to work that demeans them. They want the breathing room to take the afternoon off when their child is sick, to weather a hard month without falling apart, to feel that their life belongs to them and not to their creditors. They do not really want a yacht. They want to stop feeling afraid. And here is the beautiful secret. Yutori is not bought with a high salary. It is built from the gap between what you earn and what you spend. A person earning a fortune who spends every yen of it has no Yutori at all. They are squeezed and trapped behind a beautiful gate. And a person earning a modest wage who knows what is enough, who wastes nothing, and who lets their small savings slowly rise, creates around their life a widening space of freedom and calm. They become harder and harder to frighten. This is real wealth. My grandfather had more Yutori on his small wage than most wealthy men ever find because he had built his life so that it cost very little to be him. He needed so little that almost nothing could threaten him, and a man whom almost nothing can threaten is, in the deepest sense, a free man and a rich one. So let me bring you back to that small stone basin in Kyoto, with its 4 worn characters arranged around the opening. I know only that I have enough. This was never a teaching about doing without, my friend. It was a teaching about the way to become genuinely rich, while the rest of the world runs itself ragged, chasing a feeling that recedes the moment they reach it. You see clearly what you have, the way Honey Motoko taught with her little book. You waste nothing, the way the grandmothers mean when they murmur Mottainai. You let your small savings rise like dust gathering into a mountain, patiently for years. And slowly, without ever earning a great salary at all, you build around your one life a wide and gentle space of freedom that no employer can take from you and no hard season can wash away. The world will tell you every single day that you become rich by pouring more and more water into the cup. My grandfather Daiki, a poor man who lived like a king of his own small kingdom, taught me the older and truer way. You become rich by mending the hole in the bottom of the cup, and then by letting the water rise in its own time, and then, one ordinary evening, by looking at the life you have built and finally being able to say the 4 oldest words of wealth there are. This is enough. I have enough. When you can say those words and mean them, you are already richer than almost everyone you know, no matter what the number on your salary happens to be. Take good care of yourself and take good care of your money. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.